Good morning everyone and welcome to the March meeting of the Development Management Committee. There's no practice alarm today, so if an alarm sounds, please exit through these doors out onto the meeting point on the car park. Please turn phones off or onto silent. You might not have noticed that there are no speakers around the room here. The speakers are inside this little box. So if you are having difficulty hearing, please pull one of those boxes closer to you because the speakers are there. A warm welcome to the public watching our webcast. This meeting will be on our YouTube site and archived in line with the South Norfolk archive policy. An agenda has been published and is on the website, plus any updates to the agenda. And today's agenda has 3 applications. This is a meeting held in public, not a public meeting, and we have registered public speaking in place. And it starts with the town or parish council, then the objectors, then the applicant or agent supporter, followed by the local district councillor. And you'll be invited to come up to the public speaking desk in the front. And each group can speak for up to 5 minutes in total. And if you wish, you may use more than one speaker, but you have to share the time. So you have to be careful if you both or more than 2 speaking. We'll warn you with 1 minute to go. You have 5 minutes. We'll warn you with 1 minute to go and then ask you to come to your conclusion. And all members I can confirm have received in advance the agenda, presentation, update sheet and lobbying. Planning officers will present the key points of the application for the committee, and members will determine by a show of hands the application before us today, and I'll give you the result of that vote. And please note, if you intend to speak about an application, your name will be recorded in the minutes, and our minutes are kept as a public record indefinitely. Vera, any apologies?
Yes, Chair, we received apologies from absence from Councillor Roberts, with Councillor Webber substituting, and Councillor Rosen. Thank you.
I've got no urgent business. Declaration of interest, I can confirm we've all been lobbied on application number 2. Any other interest? No. Minutes of the last meeting, are members satisfied with the minutes of the last meeting? Yep. So we're going to go on to our first application, land west of Loddon Road, Ditchingham. Richard, to do the presentation, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So we have here an application for the erection of 27 dwellings, vehicular access, pedestrian access, public open space, landscaping and associated infrastructure at a site land west of Loddon Road, Ditchingham. So this is the site edged red. It totals around 1.75 hectares. It is a former small arable field set between existing housing at the north-east end of the village. The site is set off Loddon Road in between the residential roads of Waveney Road, an area of circa 1970s estate housing to the southwest, and Tunney's Lane, a line of more mid-20th century ribbon development on the northeast side with more sizable curtilages. Broom Heath, an area of recreational and ecological open space, is situated opposite the site on the southeast side. The site is open and flat and easy access from Loddon Road, where historically the former agricultural field has been serviced from, but it does have a notable line of oak trees to the Loddon Road frontage. Those trees continue along the Tunney's Lane frontages, and they are subject of a tree preservation order that wraps around the full extent of the site on these 2 boundaries. A line of Leylandii trees features on the northwest boundary, and the remaining southwest boundary is generally more enclosed by boundary fencing, mixed with some trees and softer vegetation also apparent to these single-storey dwellings. So the site is considered to be sustainably positioned within walking distance to some key aspects of the village, including as ringed. The bus services on both Loddon Road, which serve different routes to locations such as Diss and Beccles and Halesworth and Southwold, and also services on Hollow Road, which provides frequent services between Bungay, Halesworth and to and from Norwich. The site is in good proximity to the 7-day-a-week Ditchingham Stores convenience shop, post office on Loddon Road. It's also a short distance from Ditchingham C.V. Primary Academy and also the Broome and Ditchingham Preschool, which is provided at the local village hall. Recreational open space at Ditchingham Park Playground are also nearby as alternatives for recreational open space at Broome Heath. The site is also well located and within good proximity to nearby Bungay. The town here offers a wider range of services and facilities and is only a 5 to 10 minute bus journey away. This slide shows the site relative to the Broads National Park boundary, which is set some distance away broadly to the south, the nearest point of which is still some 750 metres away. The site is separated from this by the substantive vegetation and open space at Broome Heath and the linear development of Broome itself. This mapping shows the site relative to Broome Heath Pit, a section of the wider Broome Heath that is recognised as a SSSI or Site of Scientific Special Interest, recognised for its geological Ice Age deposits. The wider full extent of Broome Heath itself is designated as a county wildlife site, Heathland. Through Broome Heath, public rights of way exist and they crisscross the Broome Heath area. The lakes here also provide for recreational fishing. In terms of flood risk, the site is set in fluvial zone 1, the lowest level of flood risk in fluvial terms. The medium to high flood risk areas being more set to the A143 Waveney Valley corridor, following the line of the River Waveney and a flow path through the Broome Beck to the north. The site is also generally free of surface water flooding concerns, aside from a very small area of pooling to the northern corner adjacent to Tunney's Lane. So moving on to some photos now. This photograph shows the site as viewed from Loddon Road towards the north. The TPO trees become a more notable feature as one travels through and out of the existing settlement limits. However, the site itself is otherwise open when excluding these boundary trees. Street lighting to the village ends at this point currently, as does the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. This photo shows the boundary of the site as shared with the rear of the houses on Waveney Road. Into the site now, and more centrally looking northeast, showing the boundary oak trees as mentioned under the preservation order. This photo shows the view to the opposite direction, southwest, from the point of access of the site. Slightly more inside the site access now, this view looking west is towards the rear of the properties on Waveney Road. Similar view looking more towards the northwest. Almost opposite the entrance to the site, but further to the northeast, is the access point for users of the public footpath Ditchingham BR4, which cuts through Broome Heath, one of the public rights of way. This view a bit further to northeast still shows the site at the corner where the frontage oak trees are set alongside the Loddon Road and Tunney's Lane frontage. In a similar position, panning round a bit more, this shows the position of another footpath relative to the site that also connects through to Broome Heath. This one is Ditchingham FP3. Just moving a bit further around now, similar spot. This photograph shows the typically larger depth of frontage to the properties on Tunney's Lane. Going further down Tunney's Lane now, this is the view of the site as taken at the furthest point of the site boundary on the northwest side. That includes the Leyland Eye conifers just to the right, as set within the neighbouring property, which is number 21 Tunney's Lane. This is almost the same position, but now looking directly into the site a bit more towards the southeast. The Leyland Eye can be seen on the right, and another neighbouring tree, Goat Willow T23, which is noted in the Arboricultural Impact Assessment, is to the rear of 16 Waveney Road. So back onto Loddon Road now. This Google Street Maps view is from April 2021. Better shows the proposed access off Loddon Road and the site behind the line of the oak trees. This Google Maps image also shows the current entry into settlement at the start of the 30-mile-an-hour speed restricted zone. The entrance of Waveney Road can be seen to the right, slightly further ahead. So now to the plans. So this is the proposed layout showing the 27 dwellings proposed. It consists of 18 private dwellings and 9 affordable dwellings, which are shown in the lighter colour. The proposal also shows the development with a single point of access off Loddon Road. This would provide an internal estate road built to adoptable standards, with further private drive, loop road and cul-de-sacs connecting off this. Public open space would be provided centrally and around the peripheries of the site. An attenuation basin is also shown to the far corner of the development. This plan shows the highway improvement works, which consist of the following: footpath link to and from Waveney Road, a footpath routing behind the oak trees to Tunney's Lane, where none exists at present, an extra small section of footpath on the corner of Tunney's Lane and a Loddon Road, which in turn will help link to the public rights of way, footpaths Ditchingham FP3 and Broome FP6, with a pram crossing also provided. Footpath link to Loddon Road, connecting to the public right of way footpath Ditchingham BR4, again a pram crossing provided. Bus stops provided on Loddon Road at a point where none exist currently on this particular stretch, with the nearest one being some 400 to 475 metres away. And the relocation of the current 30-mile-an-hour speed limit from near to Waveney Road further down to near to Tunney's Lane. So moving to some plans of the different house types. I'm going to generally do a circular motion just around the state. I won't pick out every single one, but as many as relevant. Starting at plot 1 on the southern corner boundary, a single-storey modest one-bed property, size and scale and height appropriate to its setting and adjoining estate development on Waveney Road. Plots 2 to 4 near to the access point, reflecting more of the front-facing development seen on further along Loddon Road, typically orange stroke red brick with red tile roof, which can be further seen along Loddon Road to the southwest. Moving into the site now a bit more, plots 5 to 7 are set overlooking the public open space, provide a stepped transitional arrangement reflecting the single-storey adjacent estate development to the southwest on Waveney Road. And again, plots 8 to 9 in the same stepped design towards that boundary. A bit further up, plots 10 to 11, single storey, again showing the same brick but broken up a bit further with white weatherboarding. This is plot 11, set on the far northwest boundary, orange red brick again with pale coloured render, painted timber fascias, stone sills to windows provided in a light grey finish. Details such as the chimney stack also feature on this house type and will tie in well with other more older housing stock on Loddon Road and Waveney Road. So this is that same house type shown in another of the applicant's completed developments at Halesworth. I hope that shows the quality of the development. This is the rear of that same house type. Further around now into the estate a bit further clockwise, plot 18, now over 2 storeys further into the wider site and away from the Waveney Road boundary. Plots 16 and 17 facing more towards Tunney's Lane. Note the use of black metal railings in the design process and throughout the estate adjoining the road edges, providing a traditional finish and well-developed design detail. This is plots 19 and 27. These are two-storey properties, generally which side onto Tunney's Lane. Plot 26, facing now back towards Loddon Road, and again picking up the consistent themes around external facing materials with windows, boundary treatment, features like the chimney stacks, reflecting what can also be seen on the properties on this side on Tunney's Lane. Finally, this design is reflective of plots 24, 25, again more facing Loddon Road, and upon the entry into the development, this will help provide good levels of overlooking and natural surveillance, generally close to those coming into the estate, with a number of windows on the front and side elevations. And that's what that particular house type would look like in terms of its plan form. As an example, all plots are designed to meet the nationally described space standards, this being a two-bedroom property with an additional study room. This is the proposed foul and surface water drainage strategy. The drainage strategy is based on sustainable principles, utilises the ground conditions as investigated to provide for soakaways to individual properties or, where appropriate, groups of managed properties, i.e. those such as the affordable units managed by a registered provider. Permeable paving and the use of attenuation basin will further provide sustainable drainage benefits. The strategy has also been devised in conjunction with the 4 pillars of SUDS, or Sustainable Urban Drainage Strategy, namely water quantity, water quality, amenity and biodiversity, to which the development has been designed against. Other examples of this include the creation of swales to capture water on roadside locations and enhance the landscaping and biodiversity benefits within the site. The attenuation basin, at generally a maximum water depth of 0.7 metres, will also be vegetated, providing some open space and biodiversity benefits too. These plans show the applicant's pre-submission investigation work undertaken by Anglian Water to identify suitable points of connection in linking up to the existing foul water drainage system, either at Waveney Road or at Loddon Road. This slide shows the vast majority of the trees which are retained on site, including those within the protection order to the 2 road fronting boundaries. The small number of trees identified to be lost would be oak tree T6 at the entrance, a smaller oak tree T8 also on that Loddon Road frontage, which is in poor structural condition and recommended for removal on arboricultural grounds, and it also then allows that footpath connection to be made to the public right of way. And then 2 further oak trees within group G4 at the corner, more towards the corner with the junction shed with Tunney's Lane, needs to be removed to provide and facilitate that new footpath that doesn't exist currently. These will be compensated by additional tree planting within the site as well. The new tree planting will be dotted along the estate roads as shown on the landscape plan to help illustrate this further. Indeed, it's considered that there may be further opportunities on some particular plots where garden sizes and positions allow to get the odd extra few trees planted as agreed through the standard landscape conditions. This would aid further privacy and biodiversity benefits still. So this photo from the applicant's other Halesworth development referenced earlier in the presentation also shows the railings incorporated through the street scene generally, just to help aid that understanding of the landscaping. So the key considerations for this application is the site is considered to form a sustainable edge of settlement development, providing a suitable development transitioning between the urban and rural settings. It includes the provision of highway improvements, aiding sustainable connections to both new and existing residents. It is considered in the context of the council currently unable to demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply, and so we are exercising the tilted balance. The ecology and tree protection and landscape and drainage considerations have been made, and mitigation has been considered throughout the application, including the conditions applied. So therefore the recommendation is to approve, Chair, subject to the resolution, including the legal agreement for affordable housing and open space and the conditions as set out within the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Questions, members? Questions only to Richard? John?
Richard, regarding the parish council comments on the street lighting at the entrance, can you just clarify that situation, and then secondly, the benefits of the scheme to this area?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just bring up the right. Maybe we'll just look at that photo there. So that's the last street light, which is on the obviously the Loddon Road frontage. The parish council have been reasonably keen to try and get a street light as part of this particular development. If I just go to the correct layout, somewhere around the entrance where possibly tree T6 has been removed. We've got a condition down in the papers that obviously refers to the consideration of lighting. We have got a slight issue to consider here, because obviously the parish council quite rightly are keen on street lighting to continue down that Loddon Road frontage, and it does make sense. Obviously we're putting in the new footpath connection for the new residents as well as the existing residents. The only slight inclination with this is that we are facing the county wildlife site, so we need to be a little bit careful about lighting impacts in terms of obviously facing that more sensitive area. It's certainly one which we would consider further at under condition. We could look carefully at a very sensitive lighting strategy that could include a street light similar to what we've got, or it might include more low-level bollard type lighting throughout the estate that would help obviously keep some sense of security, natural surveillance in terms of obviously comings and goings, but obviously if it reflects the sort of more ecologically sensitive setting that we're sort of merging into. So that's under condition. In terms of the sort of benefits of the scheme, obviously the highway benefits I think are pronounced as sustainable highway benefits. So you've got obviously the bus stop provision, the footpath connections, obviously the crossing points to the rights of way, which don't exist at present. I would also suggest that, you know, it's a very sustainable site. It does connect well with the existing community. Parish council reflect that in their support for the scheme. It is very close to, you know, local facilities, the school, etc., public open space. So you'd like to think that obviously there are a range of options that mean that people can visit those facilities without the need for a private car. So I think it's a good site. Obviously, you know, we do have some enhancements in terms of biodiversity creation on site and landscaping. All in all, I think it's generally a very good scheme.
Any more? Jim?
Richard, in your presentation, you didn't really comment on the density of the site, and I think it's the first one I've seen, which is, you know, materially less than the minimum density in the Greater Norwich local plan. I wonder if you can explain why we're recommending it for approval on that basis.
Yep. I mean, normally it was something that went through my mind. Obviously, it's coming at 15 dwellings per hectare, which is, you know, a little bit below the 25 dwellings per hectare that the policy advises. That is a policy which covers all areas like this in terms of the, you know, the existing village, service villages. Sometimes sites like this come up where you're kind of transitioning more between this sort of more urban area to the more sort of rural transition. And I think this 15 dwellings per hectare was the right balance, because not only are we trying to transition in the right way, that we don't particularly get, you know, too dense next to the county wildlife site. I think the other issue here was that we had this thick line of oak trees on the frontages, which further constrained any density. So yes, it is slightly less, but I think actually as a windfall site, it's an appropriate density that just provides that neat transition between the urban and rural setting, respecting the ecological issues you've got, including the trees. So that's why we've taken that decision, but obviously appreciate it is slightly below the 25 units.
So that footpath that goes from Tunney's Lane, I presume there's no footpath on the frontage on the thing. That footpath that goes through, that's also obviously had an effect because of that sin. Will that be lit? You said low-level lighting.
My view is that potentially that would be useful to have the odd bit of low-level bulb lighting. You know, obviously we look at the Institute of Lighting Practitioners Guide to try and get sensitive lighting, particularly in sites like this. We're in the sort of the edge of where the site is generally lit before it meets more of a darker sky further to the northeast. So I want to sort of retain, you know, that sort of low level of lighting if we could. And I think because we do recognise this will be potentially a useful footpath for recreational users as well as people on Tunney's Lane, particularly, you know, people obviously coming back from maybe dog walking or what have you, then a bit of low level lighting would be useful.
Can you also, on this map, just show where the speed limit is being changed? Because we've got it fair, at some point it's 70 and it's going to go down to 30. So where does it 70 sign at the moment?
So the 30 mile an hour speed restriction zone as you come into Ditchingham is roughly here, just almost before you meet Waveney Road. At the moment, yes, you do then go into the 60 mile an hour unrestricted area, and obviously, you know, it is an area which does have the odd bit of parking associated with Broom Heath. You have got people crossing into the public rights of way. This scheme would extend the speed restricted area to up nearer to Tunney's Lane. That would obviously have dual benefits in both slowing down traffic into the village as you obviously come into this more built up area, but also I think it just helps provide where you've got these footpath crossings, you know, slowing traffic down. You've obviously got the thick line of oak trees, but you will have some frontage properties that will provide a certain amount of overlooking as well, particularly in the winter. So hopefully that whole frontage will become a lot calmer, more restricted, and obviously, you know, that's a good benefit of the scheme.
Thank you. Any more, Gary?
Thank you, Chairman. Obviously, some of the comments go on to say the ecological assessment is incorrect. Will we be asking for that to be updated, or are they going to be looking at checking it to make sure that it is correct?
Yeah, I think there was some local knowledge that I think, you know, most people thought it was a well-considered report, but there were, when it initially came in, there was some clearly some local knowledge that said, you know, Nightingale hadn't been properly understood and barn owls would go across the site. So the authors noted that and they've updated it since. So I think that's absolutely fine. I think for all intents and purposes, it's otherwise a good report. So, you know, there's a lot of enhancements that are suggested within the report, and we would look to obviously the ecologists that we work with at the council have suggested some enhancements that could go on this site, the typical sort of bird and bat boxes, that sort of thing. So we would be looking at a ecological design strategy as part of the conditions that would tie that down in a bit more detail, but the report does provide a good baseline for what they're looking to do. So yeah, that's been tidied up, and it's good to know that obviously, you know, local knowledge is key as always.
Delmy and then Jim.
Richard, obviously we've got this rather interesting objection from Anglian Water. Can you elaborate on impact or our stance with this kind of objection?
Yeah, I'll just bring up the better slides, just bear with me. So yeah, that's the foul and surface water drainage strategy plan. We are seeing, admittedly, a lot more on a lot of schemes now, objections from Anglian Water. And essentially, this is based on the local waste recycling centre that this would connect into. Obviously, as part of any residential development, you look at if you can connect into the local sewage system as the most appropriate form of connection. And here we are close to an existing couple of suitable points of connection. The applicant took out a pre-planning inquiry with Anglian Water, and they got a response on the 28th of February last year, which essentially said that there was capacity at the Ditchingham Waste Recycling Centre, and a couple of sustainable and suitable points of connection were found on Loddon Road and into the estate on the southwest side here. So the applicant quite appropriately proceeded with their application. We received that in round about March time. We consulted Anglian Water, and not long after consultation, 1st of May, we received an objection, which was a bit of a surprise, given the very recent comments that the applicant had at 28th of February. So I investigated that a little bit further. I was told that this was due to an updating of their data in March, April of last year. But as I say, we are seeing this consistently across a lot of schemes now. And essentially, you know, we do consider that, like with other schemes that have gone before this committee, that it can be something that we can resolve under the resolution and under conditions. Obviously, there is a legal precedent here that there's a case called the Barrett Holmes Welsh Water case that essentially was quite clear that it is, that went all the way to Supreme Court. It's quite clear that it's for the undertaker to meet their obligations under the Water Industry Act to provide that point of connection. And obviously the planning system should be no more than just obviously facilitating that connection through appropriate conditions around obviously anything to do with the timing of that. I mean, obviously we will be looking at an appropriate typical condition for foul drainage. That was obviously preoccupation, but we feel that would be suitable for you know, any issues in terms of the connection to be ironed out with Anglian Water for them to meet their obligations. So we're quite comfortable with it, but unfortunately we are seeing it a little bit more these days.
Jim?
Yeah, on the same theme, your paragraph 5.126 in your report sort of seems to be quite critical, but having read it 2 or 3 times, I'm not actually convinced I understand it. So if this is all being subject to a condition, i.e. the wastewater problem, what actually are we expecting to happen next, and how is it going to get resolved satisfactorily?
So, I mean, obviously I've got Ben here who can explain a bit further, but we are having some more high-level discussions with Anglian Water, generally speaking, and obviously we would see that this, like other applications, we would have a condition that, you know, typically we would always have a condition normally on surface and foul water. In terms of foul water, we would look to just make sure that those connections were met, and obviously we're able to discharge them, which we'd expect to be into one of these sewers locally, whether it's Loddon Road or into the estate. So essentially that would be part of any ongoing discussions, and obviously, you know, the detail of that would be tied down through the condition.
I'm happy to come in, that's okay as well. Just a couple of things really. Look, Richard's explained it really well. I think the report is hopefully clear. There's a good section in there, 5.92 to 5.102 in particular. We've also asked for data to continue those discussions and to confirm them. I'm going to say something slightly different and then come back to the point. This isn't news to Anglian Water. The development that we're looking to do within the area, there's an allocation within the VCHAP. Sorry, for those who don't know, the Village Clusters Housing Allocations plan, and in other locations that would go to the Ditchingham, well, to the local water recycling centre as well. So from our perspective, we are taking a relatively bullish stance that sort of says that some of the conditions they're proposing on other applications aren't acceptable, but in this instance they are objecting, so we are trying to find a way through to work with them, and I'm confident we will have a relevant condition that of course the applicant would have to be happy with as well, because the agent is here, I'm sure they can speak for them, but any condition that we might end up putting on needs to pass the 6 tests of conditions. And if we end up putting a condition on that doesn't meet that, it's not reasonable, enforceable, all of the rest, then they could appeal it as well. So hopefully you've got the confidence that if you get the delegation to us, we can take that forward, we can work with the applicant to secure that and try to get Anglian Water on side. I'm not going to say that we will fully get Anglian Water on side, but we'll have a condition ultimately that will be meet all the tests. And without that, then we might have to come back, but I don't think we'll get to that point of having to come back. We'll get there with it.
You want to follow up, Jim?
Yeah, just on that point, others might not agree with me, they probably don't, but I mean, I'm sort of loath to do anything which increases the environmental risk in South Norfolk. Would it be reasonable to ask for that particular condition to come back to committee for consideration, so we get a chance to fully understand what is being proposed here?
Well, I mean, I'll answer in a very straightforward, anything's reasonable that you ask for. I'm really confident in, I hope you've got the confidence in us as officers to work on the actual wording of that condition to ensure that it's the right wording from our professional judgment.
And I think we're saying the recommendation to authorise the Assistant Director. So we're authorising you to do all of those jobs that we would expect you to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different subject now, flood risk. I don't know if you want to go back to the flood risk maps. I mean, it's clearly a low-lying site, but also risk of flooding due to, in some areas, due to rainfall. What I didn't understand was the extent to which the maps you were looking at took into account, climate change and sort of 1 in 100-year type scenarios. Could you explain, please?
Yeah, well, these are the Environment Agency flood risk mapping. So you've got here the fluvial rivers and sea map. Obviously, the mapping is based on obviously the data that they have, and that includes climate change. So, for all intents and purposes, the site is well within flood zone 1, which is the lowest form of flooding. You do have that sort of section Broome Beck to the north, which has a bit of a flow path, but even there, I think we're quite separate to it. In terms of surface water, again, based on the sort of, the high chance, the highest of flood from surface water, there's only a very slight section on that Tunney's Lane frontage, and that is obviously, again, it's based on climate change data. So, you'd expect a very infrequent event in 1 in 100 years plus climate change for any surface water to be notable there. Obviously, I'm aware there is some surface water further down Tunney's Lane, but that coexists with the data that we're seeing here in terms of the sort of fluvial area that just touches into Tunney's Lane, but certainly considerable distance from the site. So I'm comfortable there's no flood risk issues here. It's obviously got a full flood risk assessment as well provided.
And we have the attenuation pond as well on the top corner. Is that near the bit you were referenced?
That's right, and that's suitably positioned on the site. If I can just get the right layout for that, that shows up. But essentially, yes, just on that same area. So, we've purposely designed it so that, where we've got that slight bit of surface water flood risk, which is more around where the trees are on Tunney's Lane, that you've got no dwellings encroached into that area. So that very, very, very slight risk is even mitigated by the site layout. So it's a good scheme in that sense.
So you're confident that predicting 400 years, it's still got a very low chance of any surface water flow. Yeah, good.
No more questions? So we're going to go into public speaking. I've got nobody registered from the parish council. I've no objector registered, but I've got Alan. Hello, Alan. Welcome back. You know the rules. So you have 5 minutes. We'll warn you with 1 minute to go. And when you turn on the microphone, please give your name for the record.
Thank you, Chairman. Alan Presley of Cornerstone Planning on behalf of the applicant. I don't propose to take up too much of the committee's time by reiterating the sort of detailed context and all the issues which have been so thoroughly set out in the report and confirmed and updated by the officer this morning. But I would like to reiterate and highlight some of the main issues raised in consultation and addressed by the report. Notwithstanding that the site abuts the settlement boundary, the report rationalises the 5-year housing land supply position and the tilted balance assessment favourably. The site's well related to the form and function in sustainability terms to the existing built form of the village, and as you've seen is enclosed and defined by mature trees and hedgerows. The report addresses comprehensively the various issues and the relevant policies of the development plan, concluding that all are met by these proposals, including Sustainable design and respecting local character. The report confirms that the dwelling's design accords with local relevant design policies. Local services and infrastructure. The report advises no demonstrable harm, indeed benefits arising, and recommends conditions to secure and address such matters. Assimilation with the form and character of the village and the local landscape. The report advises that the site and development do so, enclosed on 3 sides by existing development and aided by a retention of strong belts of trees along the 2 road boundaries. As amended, Norfolk County Council Highways raises no objections subject to conditions. It concludes that safe and convenient access can be provided and supports other infrastructure works which we've seen this morning, including new bus stops on the site frontage and the extension of the footpath network to integrate with local existing rights of way. The application includes a fully policy-compliant affordable housing provision, designed and subsequently amended to meet the specific requirements of your housing officer. These application proposals have been long in preparation and consideration through public consultation, pre-application engagement with the community and the parish council, with design and adaptations to address various matters raised from that process. We've been encouraged and are grateful for the parish council's constructive input throughout the process. As explained by the officer, these proposals meet in full the provisions of the local plan having regard to the 5-year housing land supply position. And as indicated by the report, any modest impacts are substantially outweighed by the benefits of this scheme. I trust that the report's recommendations and conditions will be confirmed today to enable the application to be resolved and determined, and thus ensure the early delivery of these homes in Ditchingham. I'm happy to respond to any questions arising. Thank you, Chairman.
Aaron, I should have picked it up actually with Richard, but on the affordable, are they pepper potted through the site or are they in one area?
I think, Chairman, the plan shows that they're sort of fairly well scattered, given that it's a fairly modest scheme. They're well distributed around the site.
I wasn't going to ask this, but you raised it. How quickly do you think the developer will bring this forward once full permission is available?
Yeah, how do we get them off?
We can't hear very well.
Sorry, Councillor, can you repeat the question?
Microphone on. Yeah, the question was simply, when do you expect the developers to actually bring this forward?
I know they're keen to progress. The landowner, which is Ditchingham Estates, and the applicant who will be building out the site. I don't have a time frame, but I know they're keen to resolve the conditions and to get the application permitted and to get on with things.
Thank you, Alan. If you'd like to take your place again, I've got no district councillor, so we move out of public speaking. I'm going to open it to members for thoughts and considerations. Who's going to go first? Jim?
I mean, clearly it's a nice scheme, probably appropriate for an edge of a village. The conversation we've had about lighting, I think, has been very helpful. It's a shame it's opposite Broomheath and the SSI, but nonetheless, the harm from that seems to be fairly limited. We do need more houses. Yeah, I'm in principle very happy with it. You know, I do have reservations about environmental spillage and ethical support. I'd personally like that to come back to committee. Not because I don't trust our officers, but because I think there's a public interest in this, and I'm in favour of transparency.
Any more comments? No? John, did you put your hand up? No. No. Okay. So we go to the recommendation summary to authorise the Assistant Director of Planning to approve subject to the resolution of the matter relating to Anglian Water, conditions, any updates needed following the publication of the new NPPF, and the resolution of a Section 106 agreement to secure affordable housing, open space, monitoring fees and recreation avoidance mitigation strategy RAMS. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in favour, Chair.
Against?
None against.
Abstention?
And 1 abstention, Chair, so that's carried.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. So we're going to move on to application number 2, 54 to 56 Damgate Street, Wyndham. Sundas, if you can just wait 1 minute. Just so you know, we're waiting for one member to come back. If he's not here for the presentation, he can't vote, and we like to keep the full committee voting, so we'll only be a minute. The floor is yours.
Morning. So the application site.
Sorry, just a second, that's because you got first. Gents at the back, if you get close to that, it's these bits at the side that are the speakers. Okay. Sorry.
No, okay. So the proposal is for a subdivision of a residential plot and erection of one self-built dwelling. The site is off Damsgate Street in Wyndham. It's within the settlement boundary of Wyndham. So here we've got a site location plan showing the site context. So you can see the site boundary in red. That includes the shared access. For site context, we've got number 48 Damgate Street on the right and number 52 on the left, and the access is in between these two properties. So there's a satellite images for site context. Again, we've got the shared entrance showing off Damgate Street, and then that leads to the site at the back. So we've got a proposed site plan here. In red is the proposed site curtilage for the new dwelling. The green hatched area is the shared access, which is currently shared between number 50, 52, 54 and 56, and the new dwelling would be accessed via that access as well. In blue is the garden area retained for numbers 54 and 56. And we've also got the parking, the existing parking for number 50, 52, 54 and 56 showing on there, and then one additional space for the proposed dwelling. Here we've got the proposed floor plan, which includes 2 bedrooms, a pantry, a kitchen, a living dining room, and another small room which presumably would be a bathroom, even though it's not labelled on the plan. I've got the site elevations here. So here we've got a photo showing the site entrance, so the access between number 48 and number 52. So number 48 is on the right and number 52 on the left. This is the northern site boundary, with number 48 on the other side of the site boundary wall. So this is another photo of the shared access and parking area. The proposed dwelling would be on the other side of the hedge shown on there. So another photo of the shared parking and driveway, and there's the existing dwellings to the east. Again, this photograph shows part of the existing parking area and on the southern boundary. Again, showing part of the parking area, existing parking area, sorry. And then we've got the western boundary further to the back. The tree further to the far left corner has a TPO on it. So that's again showing the shared parking and access with the existing dwellings to the east of the site. And here we've got the site plan again for reference. And my recommendation is for approval subject to conditions stated in my report, and the additional archaeology condition recommended by the Historic Environment Officer, which is detailed in the update sheet. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandas. Members, questions? Questions only to Sandas? Jim?
Your chart seems to show, with the new dwelling, 5 dwellings and 4 parking spaces.
That's right, yeah. So number 54 and 56 currently have 1 shared space between them. And then that area, if you just go back.
Sorry. No, this is not. Sorry.
Sorry, just one moment. I'll just go back on. How do I go back? That's this one, yeah? So that's the existing space for number 54 and 56, and that would be widened slightly to create 1 additional space for the proposed dwelling.
And the question really is 1 space, it seems that we have 4 dwellings there, not 5, is 1 space per dwelling actually adequate?
So Highways haven't raised any objection. They've said on balance we can accept the reduced parking due to the location close to the town centre.
And so the existing one is 1 space per house?
So numbers 50... So 50 and 52 have 1 space each, and then 54 and 56 have 1 shared space as existing.
Right.
And the proposal doesn't change that.
Are there any questions? I've got nobody from, so we're in public speaking, nobody from the parish council, I've no objector, but I've got Nicola. Yeah, that's fine, Nicola. If you'd like to come forward to the thing, because I knew we were going to hear from you anyway.
Apologies, Chair. Just to confirm, we did have 1 objection, but we said building material earlier, which members have
Yeah, sorry,
declared.
yeah.
But just to put it on record, there was a obviously an objector, but
Yeah, we'd had lobbying on that, yeah. But nobody to speak, so that's what I meant. Nicola, you're going to have 5 minutes. We'll warn you with 1 minute to go. And as soon as you turn on the microphone, please give your name for the record.
Oh, hello, my name's Nicola O'Callaghan. I'd just like to...
Can you pull it a bit closer to you? Thank you.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I won't take up much of your time. My husband and I presently own 54 and 56. It's been one house for a long time now, long before we bought it. So it's 2 artisan cottages, which is now 1. So the parking space 54, 56 is for 1 house. I'd also like to thank the planning team. We've had quite an ongoing few months, over a year now. We've taken on board all their advice and made compromises along the way, so I hope the outcome is satisfactory to everybody. Certainly we hope it will be satisfactory. Looking at the report, it seems that all the planning authorities and consultees have managed to clear up any objections that have arisen. The right-of-way issue is a private matter between us and our neighbours, which we have begun to discuss. So we have decided we would come to an arrangement should we be granted permission to go ahead. So that won't be an issue any longer. The other thing I'd just like to point out, which we have found on our journey, that the garden has actually been inhabited by weavers, people, going back as far as the 1860s, because on the 1861 census there was 3 families living in there. And I've got photos of the cottages from the 1970s when they were still in existence, if you'd like to see them. I'll pass those out. And just to add interest to that, one of the surnames on the census was actually Kett. So I'm going to look into that to see if we've got famous or infamous people in the garden. And so, of course, I looked up the case law for precedent. They obviously had access, all those families, for all those years. We've also got a map from historical England, dated, I think it's 1860, showing the buildings in existence. So there was a right-of-way for all those, well, hundreds of years probably, until recent times. And case law says that just because a right-of-way hasn't been used doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I'm not an expert in that area, but that's what I've found and discovered. And that's it. I can pass you the information if you'd like to see the census, if you'd like to see the map, if you'd like to see the photos from the 1970s.
If you'd just like to pass them up to the young gentleman at the end, and he'll pass them along.
Yeah, and that's me. Thank you very much for
Now,
listening.
just before we move,
Yeah.
are there any questions for Nicola? No? So if you...
Should I turn this off?
Yeah, turn that off, please. Just pass them to Jim and he'll have a quick look and pass them up. I've got no district councillor registered to speak. So we're going to go to members as they look at the maps and the plans and things and discuss Kett House. Thoughts and comments. I found it interesting that all of a sudden we don't have a 54 and a 56. We have 1 house, which does change quite a lot in that diagram. So who's going to go first? John?
I don't really have an issue with the approval of the application. Obviously there was a concern about the access into the site, and we discussed it, and it's like we're looking at an application and the access to the site is obviously a civil matter between the applicant and the owners of that. And as I've said before, you know, the law with planning is that somebody can draw a red line around my garden and put an application in to develop my property without even going into getting involved with the access. So I support the application and hope that you come to an agreement regarding the access.
Yeah, I think that normally a 2-bedroom unit would require 2 parking spaces, but as highways have raised no objections, then I guess that's not relevant.
One of the objectors raised concerns about just the impact of actually building the property with both tradesmen and supplies vehicles coming. So I do think it would be a good idea if we could add a condition to have some kind of transport management plan in place. So we do limit the impact on both local residents and the usual users of Damgate Street to minimise the chaos that this causes.
Well, we normally have that on any development, any building. Is there any reason that would it meet the 6 tests?
Yeah, so I'm really comfortable with that, Chair. So we've already got condition 5, that is for the demolition and construction hours, but we can expand that to include the submission of a construction management plan to us. I think that's a sensible route through.
Approval subject to conditions. Now we have on the update sheet, we've got A, B and C. And now we've got an amendment to condition number 5. So members, with all that in mind, A, B, C and the amendment to number 5, those in favour, please raise your hand.
Chair, that looks to be unanimous.
Thank you, unanimous. Right, number 3, application number 3. Thank you for coming, by the way. Tom, when you're ready.
Great, thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. The proposal is for a village convenience store located at the Old Dairy, Darrow Green in Denton. The site is outlined in red. It's located outside of the defined development boundary in a very rural, detached setting. The existing site consists of a residential property and outbuildings. From the aerial views, you can see that the site is located at a significant distance from the settlement of Denton. The character of the area is defined by the rural arable fields, farms, and very sparse residential development. The proposed plans and elevations show the location of the proposed building, which is set in front of the main dwelling to the front edge of the site, as well as the parking spaces and relationship of the proposal on the wider site. In terms of the photos and context of the area, here you can see a view east going towards the site. So this is a view taken from to the west, to the further west of the site, and you can see the rural setting, the country road, single track, and this then continues further along east going towards the site, and you can just glimpse the site just here, and that's the access there. And then a bit further along there you can see it a bit more clearly. And here we see the site itself. The building is proposed to go in this area to the front. And a view into the site just gives a bit more context of the residential setting and the existing parking area and driveway. And then this is a view from the far east along the road, looking west going towards the site. And you can see some agricultural buildings there as part of the rural setting. Moving along, and there you can see the access, so that just gives you a view from that side of things. So, in regard to the key considerations, the proposal is not acceptable, so the principle of development is not supported, as the scheme does not comply with any policies related to the location of the development due to the very rural and unsustainable location. With regard to design and impact on the character of the area, due to the scale of the proposed building, it would not result in adverse impact on the character and appearance of the area. And in regard to amenity, whilst the proposal would generate additional traffic and people movements at the site, which would generate additional noise, the scale of the development and the separation from neighbouring properties means that the proposal would not create adverse impacts subject to conditions. In terms of highways, the proposal would not result in adverse impacts relating to parking provision and highway safety due to a suitable parking layout and a visibility display. The Norfolk County Council Highway Officer raised no objection relating to the highway safety side of things, subject to conditions. In terms of environmental quality considerations, the proposal wouldn't result in adverse impacts on pollution and health and safety, and the Environmental Quality Officer raised no objections subject to conditions. In terms of the primary reasons for the public support of this proposal, they relate to the provision of the convenience store in its isolated location, giving access to the rural community. And whilst these comments are fully appreciated, the proposal cannot be supported given the very rural setting and the very limited connectivity to the site. The site is only accessed via a single track road. There are no footways, street lighting, bus or cycle routes which link the site to Denton or the wider area. And therefore the proposal is recommended refusal on grounds relating to the unsustainable location of development, and the proposal does not accord with policy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tom. Members, questions only to the officer. No, so we're going to go into public speaking. We've got Terry. Terry? Yeah, if you'd like to come forward, Terry. Terry's from the Parish Council. And he's going to be very quick because he's got no notes. Right, so you sat through here, so we're going to give you 5 minutes. We'll warn you with 1 minute to go, and as soon as you press that, please give your name and who you are for the record. Yep. No. Further, no, this little button down the bottom.
On the right-hand side of the bottom. Right. I'm Terry Hanna. I'm Chairman of Denton Parish Council. The Parish Council supports this proposal because we're a rural village with no bus service at all and no connection otherwise than private cars. And as for the conditions of single carriage road, the whole village is single carriage road, so Darrow Green Road doesn't really stand out on its own. And the property in question has been a commercial property since 1973. That was originally a dairy, followed by a joinery business, followed by a car repair business, is now an Airbnb. And on the whole, I think, as a village, because we're quite a thriving village, and that'll be another asset to our village. And I think that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions from members? Jim?
Terry, would you use it, and do you think other people would use it?
Yes, I think they would. Because we've got a lot of elderly residents. I know it's a little way from the village, but with neighbourly support, I think that would be used.
And how do you think people would get there?
Well, I suppose a neighbour will take them. Some people walk, some people got invalid scooters and things, and they would make their own way there. All right.
John? If you were to walk from Denton to the shop, how long would it take you?
From the main village, probably quarter of an hour.
Okay.
But there is, the main village is about a mile away, but there is a lot of surrounding properties within, you know, short distance.
Tom, just on this point, do we have any idea of how many properties are, say, within a 5 or 10 minute walk of this location?
I don't know the exact number of properties, but it's a very sparse rural setting. The site is located well outside of the defined settlement of Denton. So on there you can see I've marked up Denton Village Hall, which is within the settlement boundary of Denton along the linear main area. But from my Google Maps walk kind of time calculation, I set a walk from Denton Village Hall to the site, and it came up at about half an hour.
That's using their direction thing on Google Maps, yeah.
Terry, do we know the reason why all the previous businesses have ceased trading in that area? Because there's been obviously quite a few over the years that have used that site for trading in various areas.
Well, as in the village shop, the last one we had closed in 91. But since then, we've had a community bus, we've had good bus service, but now, at the moment, we've got nothing, no buses at all. So if you haven't got a car, you're either relying on, you know, goodwill of neighbours or taxis or whatever. So we have nothing. But as a village, we are community-wise, we are a thriving village, and we think this would be another, you know, part of it.
Kieran?
Thank you. Just on that point, you mentioned that the last village shop closed in 91.
91, yeah.
Has the population grown any insignificantly since then?
Probably slightly, but not. I say we're not a big village, but because we've always been a spread out village anyway, and it's always been a scattered community. So we've never really had a. Well, we got a centre, but not. It's always been very scattered. Right, thank you very much.
Are the applicants? Are you both speaking?
You'll come to most of it. If we've got a little bit of time, we'll do something I'd like to,
Yeah.
if that's okay.
So make sure you leave him some time. So 5 minutes, we'll warn you with 1 minute to go. And then when you press the speak, please give your name.
Which one? The light one?
Yeah. The one on the right hand side.
Good morning, everyone. We oppose the planning officer's decision to refuse our application for a convenience store to be located on our property in Denton. In the planning officer's conclusion, item 5.27 of the committee report, he states that there are no footways, street lighting, bus or cycleways which link the site to the main settlement of Denton. We would like to advise the committee that none of these services are available within the whole of Denton or surrounding villages. The proposed shop is exactly 1.1 miles from the centre of Denton, being measured to the village hall. This can be easily accessed by bike, car and walking. The planning officer also states in the conclusion that, and I'll quote, no evidence has been provided by the applicant which demonstrates that there are no sequentially preferable sites within a development boundary. Firstly, we would like to point out that this question has never been asked by the officer in our application, either to us or our agent, and there is no record of this on the portal. We spent over a year researching the viability of opening up a shop in Denton, looking at locations, suitable buildings and what would make it financially viable and the need for a shop. Firstly, the only financially viable way to operate a village shop in Denton is to have it on your property. It will need to offer delivery service, and we plan to pilot a video shopping experience for the elderly, as well as pre-orders over the phone. The last shop in Denton closed over 35 years ago after 80 years of serving the village. Since then, no one has found a viable way of opening a shop anywhere in Denton until now. We believe the planning officer is overstating that Darrow Green Road is a track. It is regularly used by articulated lorries serving the nearby farms, and the fact that there is no street lighting or cycle routes, etc., is no concern of the Highways Department, who have been consulted, and after amendments to the visibility display, now have no concerns either with the road or entrance. They overlook the fact that we will be providing an outlet for local producers in and around Denton for 7 days a week, from meat, crops, wine, beer and crafts, even ice cream, which all employ local people, and who are keen to work with us on this venture. Yes, there may be better locations within the village, but the same could be said for any planning application, but other factors have to be taken into account when you start a project. We are blessed to live in such a special village and an amazing community who always club together to make things happen. We are willing to take the risk of providing a much needed service to our local community, and we have their full backing, along with the parish council and district councillor. We are proposing a simple timber frame building which will have no impact to the surrounding area. We believe that this can become the hub of the community. The plus points are as stated by our district councillor on policies DM 2.1 and DM 3.10, and would also support the social well-being, sustainability and resilience of the local community. If the planning officer's reason for refusal the shop is unsustainable, it can be taken down and reused. All we are asking for the committee to give Denton the chance of having its own local shop to serve the community. We would like to thank you for your time and would like to answer any questions you may have.
If I would just a quick point that Chris Brown couldn't be here today, a district councillor, and I did receive an email from him this morning, but mostly covering the same as what we've gone through there. But he did make a point that the site is on a
1 minute remaining.
A designated walking route through the Queen's Walk, set up by the parish council for the Queen's Jubilee, and the villagers get about perfectly well without street lights and open cycle routes. The proposal would make the village and the wider area far more sustainable by removing the need to drive. And the rest of his points we basically covered on that. And I'd like to thank you for your time.
Any questions for Paul and Karen?
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Sorry, I have to put my hand up. Are you going to do all of this between the two of you, 70 hours a week?
Any more? Right, if you'd like to take your place again, please. So we're out of public speaking and, well, as you heard, we've not got the district member. So we're going to members for conversations. And I think the basic start of this is our well-used policy of remote locations. I think it's a starting point on that basis. So I'd like to hear from members. Any thoughts? Or John?
Can I ask Ben a question?
You can.
I just wondered why, Ben, over the years, we've allowed several businesses to operate there. I mean, there's been a car body shop, there's been a stable block, there's been an Airbnb, there's been a garage, etc.
I don't have those applications in front of me, and forgive me, I'm a bit too young to know what was happening with the stable block back in the day. They will have, I can search them up, but they will have been approved for the various planning reasons that would have been acceptable at the time, really. I'm only really looking at them, the most recent one being the holiday let. I mean, a holiday let is obviously significantly different to a shop or the car body shop beforehand. The holiday let is a use that we would deem acceptable in a rural location for this sort of limited use of it, I think. But I don't have them. Apologies, John.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I take on board all the officers. This is a tricky one. I take on board all the officers' feedback. But if I'm looking at section 5.28, it says, in relation to design, character and appearance, amenity, highway safety and environmental quality, it's considered that the development will not result in any adverse impact. And to John's point, commercial operations have been operating on this site in several instances in the past. So the crux of this comes down to the location for a community store.
Yeah, thanks. Because these businesses have been long gone from the notes here. So the car body shop was in 2012 to 2017 under different planning, I guess, from that point. But to Delmy's point, have you got any comment?
No, I think what we've tried to do is just, I hope you'd always think we would do this, just set out the facts that are there. We are key. We're not trying to hide from the fact that actually there's a number of issues that aren't issues. So there aren't objections from that perspective, and Tom set it out really well. What we're saying is that the permission, the principle of the development, it doesn't have a policy hook to hang it on in the local plan, and therefore any recommendation contrary to that, i.e. an approval, would have to be on the basis that it's contrary to the development plan. Sorry, just to reiterate, I know we're not getting to this point, but I just wanted to make it really rounded. If that were to be the case, then there would have to be a really clear reason from members for that.
Yeah, same as Delmy really, because it's down to it's an acceptable type building, but it's whether it's sustainable. And the applicant said they've got people who are willing, they've got people interested in it, and it's their view is it's commercially sustainable. And I don't think I'm in a position to say it's not. And if it's in everything else considered, it's acceptable. I'm not there to judge that it's not commercially viable.
Do you want to make a comment on that? Because yes, we don't know, but we don't know either way, do we?
No, we don't, which is a fair point. I I think, look, I think I won't interrupt the discussion too much more, because I think it's worth members discussing the points that have been raised, and if there's a different view, then I can add any comments that are helpful as we go along.
But your point was that there is no policy, we have no policy nationally or locally that would be there to support this.
Yep, so just to reiterate what I said, we can consider it would be contrary to the development plan. If members were to make a different decision, it would have to be in the knowledge that it is contrary to the development plan, and they would have to come up with some sort of overriding reason as to why.
And that plan is written by members. Any more? Gary.
Thank you, Chairman. Has there been any case law about applications that have gone to appeal for unsustainable location? Because obviously we see them all the time, especially seems Norfolk is a rural location. We're always going to get little things pop up, you know, in the middle of nowhere, I've known little farms that we've refused because they're, yeah, rural location. Obviously somewhere like Denton, you know, somewhere like our little tiny villages out in the middle of nowhere, we are literally saying to them, well, you can't build anything because you're unsustainable, you don't have parks, you don't have a bus service. Most of Norfolk doesn't have a bus service or cycleways, and I don't know the last time when our policy was actually looked at, because maybe we need to be a little bit more flexible with how we look at things, especially in the rural location.
If I can respond to that, Chair, if that's okay. So we have, South Norfolk has very clear policies in its development management development plan document, and it's been really successful over the years in defending those policies, and therefore we've had no reason to particularly revisit them or change them. And I think part of the reason for the policies that we have, the specific policy I'm going to refer to as DM 2.1, is to protect the countryside. That's what we've always tried to do. That's what we've been successful in doing. I haven't got a whole list of them now, but we've been very successful on appeals for, you know, shops, for homes, for businesses, those sorts of things. And just to give a bit more flavour to it as well, I'm sorry, I'm reading it out, but it's not a no to development in the countryside, it's just certain criteria. Criteria here is the reuse of redundant and rural buildings and hard standings are located on sites that are well related to rural towns and villages. We talked about the sequential part there, and create accessible jobs and business opportunities in the rural area. So we're not saying no, we're just saying you need to meet those criteria. If you can't, then we would be saying no to it. And I think what's been raised through Tom's presentation, but actually interestingly through the speakers as well, I don't think they're hiding from it, and they wouldn't do or arguing with it. We just don't consider that this is well related to the settlement limit of Denton. It is some distance away. There isn't any clear accessible route to it. You do have to go on the tracks to get there. There was a reference made by the applicant about HCVs going via the front of the site. I'm not saying that we should necessarily give that a great deal of issue in terms of refusal. We haven't done because highways haven't objected to it, but it's just worth noting that as well. So if people are walking there and there are HCVs, well that's an issue. However, I'm sorry, I know I'm going a long-winded way to get there. People drive to this site. There's no two ways about it, but the question for members is whether they are comfortable with that or not.
Kieran?
Thank you, Chair. I do have concerns around the viability of the site, and I do take officers' points that it's contrary to our policy, but I do think on our job as a committee is to sort of gather the facts and apply a balance as to where we think would be beneficial. Hearing the applicant speak, I do think that there have been previous businesses here that haven't been successful. I think they've identified the reasons why and made an effort to mitigate that. I also think given the location, there is a level of nuance that we should be applying. Again, accessibility isn't great, but accessibility anywhere is not going to be great. So I think I'd be minded to be in support of the application on the basis that there are community benefits there, there's economical benefits, and I don't think we should be, yes, it's contrary to our policy, but if we should be shackling ourselves to our own detriment by our own policies. So I think I would apply a slightly different balance to it, in that everything else is acceptable. I can't see any particular harms other than it being contrary to policy. So in this case, I would say that the economical and community benefits would outweigh the going against the policy.
Economical, and is that a material reason that we could apply? Because you said it's against policy. If we went against the policy, we would have to come up with a material viable reason.
Yeah, certainly. So I wouldn't be uncomfortable with those if members were minded to go for that. I think from an economic perspective, I'm not putting words into your mouth, it's for you to determine this, but I suppose the question I'm asking, is it the creation of jobs? Because that could be something you could go for. From a community perspective, I think that's maybe an angle we could look at, because you are saying there's a community benefit to it. I think that might be stronger, because I think we've heard from the applicants it would be themselves that would be running it primarily. It might create jobs in the future. I think the might is a we don't know until we've seen whether it's economically viable going forward. So I think probably the community side of things would be a stronger point in this instance, as in it's creating a community facility which the community doesn't have currently.
Yeah, and I would have thought there should be a system.
I would have, if used, sorry.
Well, yeah, if it's not used, then
there is always an if, and what's important here is we have a policy that says there's nothing in that policy that allows this. So if we turn it over, then we have to be very clear about why we're doing it, and the fact that people, I mean, some of the people might drive 5 miles anyway to the existing thing. We have to be very careful, because we are turning over one of our policies, and I'm always keen to tell you that, because they're policies that we've written, so we have to really think about it. Is there anybody else who wants to make a comment?
Just to be clear before we vote, Ben, you said it would be creating up to 3 part-time jobs. And and that would be an overriding economic benefit.
I don't think we can guarantee jobs.
And the thing said, the proposal would be creating up to 3 part-time jobs.
I think just to answer that, that's what we've been advised, but I suppose I'm taking the view and the words of the applicant there that in the first instance they would look to run it. So I think I would slightly change what we've written in there, because the applicants have made it clear themselves that they would be looking to run it. So I'm not convinced that we can confirm that there would be those jobs created. It might do in time if it does really well, but I just don't think that's a strong point at this particular moment in time.
All finished with things? So we're going to go to the recommendation, which is refusal. All those who agree, please raise your hand.
That's none, Chair.
We read the room right, didn't we?
And sorry, can we just, to fully complete it, any against?
Yep.
So against officer's recommendation, can we just do the full way around? Sorry. So that's unanimous for against the officer's recommendation, so you would need to go to a contrary.
So Ben, I'm going to throw myself at your feet to give us proper reasoning that we could substantiate.
Yeah, that's fine. And I think what I'll do is just I'll touch on conditions as well, because if we're approving it, members are going to be wanting some conditions attached to. So the way I've heard the discussion is that you are going against the provisions of the local plan. There's no policy that we can hang this on in the local plan. However, you consider that there would be a community benefit from the provision of this shop. And I think it's as simple as that, Chair. I don't think you need anything more than that. So you are considering that that is an overriding benefit, that it goes against our policies.
Right. So then we're now going to vote on the approval.
Yep. What
conditions would we be looking at?
So, just off the top of my head, if we were to, in all seriousness, because it's really important, we tie this down right, we'd have a usual standard time limit condition that the members would see all the time, as it needs to be commenced in 3 years. We'd need to approve the plans, because obviously we've got the plans that have been in front of us. The applicant has talked about the visibility display. We'd need to make sure that that was conditioned as well. The parking area needs to be in place, and we need to ensure there's sufficient turning within the site as well, and also so that the applicants can have their own parking, to make sure that that works out in the right sort of way. I'd want to condition the opening hours. I think we can be pretty generous with it in terms of those opening hours, that it's not really near anyone. We can either work them through now, or you can leave them to me to work through. Sorry, yeah.
Just on the opening hours, I was just going to suggest that we leave them as they are, on the basis that I think people running this shop probably won't want to open it 70 hours a week, but they'll work out what works for them and what works for their customers.
But we don't have any opening hours at the moment.
Yeah,
I think they have proposed them through the.
But we don't have any in the recommendations.
No, so but if you're happy to leave them to me, but I'll take that point that, broadly along those lines. Wouldn't want to be adding any external lighting unless they get consent from us. I don't think they would ever have a need for this, but we would want to be controlling any plant or machinery that went on it. So what could there be? There could be an air source heat pump, but I think we'd want to make sure that we were in control of that. I think we want to have a very specific use under Class E. So that would be for a village convenience store. And actually that would end up being a sui generis use as opposed to a Class E use, because I wouldn't want any movement within that. So it'd be making a very specific use for a village convenience store. And then I think the final one would be, I think members, you probably would agree with this, and I think the applicant would be open to doing this, is that we have a tie on the ownership, so that the ownership is with the residents who own the property, because that would seem reasonable, particularly if you had a separate dwelling and there were opening hours and it did do really well and it was opening all hours. That wouldn't seem reasonable, so we would tie it to the ownership as well. So if that's okay, I think, unless there's any other proposals for conditions, that's what I'm
thinking of PD rights. If there is a building.
So I think with there'll be very limited PD rights on a building such as this, but also I'm happy to remove them because why not? It gives us that full control, but there would be really limited amounts of work they could do.
Right. Okay.
Well, yeah, but it would be. Oh, sorry, Chair, you've got a couple of questions down there.
Gary.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to ask, obviously, the applicant said earlier that it's going to be mainly a timber building, that obviously if anything's about, obviously it could just be removed. Is there a condition that can kind of almost state that? So if this unfortunately at some point fails and, everything else, then the building is removed and it can't be used for anything else unless it comes back for planning permission from ourselves?
I think that's probably covered in the conditions that I've gone through. I don't. Look, it's one of those things. If it didn't work through and they decided to remove the building, that's fine. We could add a specific condition that says it reverts back to its previous land use, but I don't think there's much need to do that in this instance, because again, particularly if we do remove PD, there would be no changing without coming to us for permission.
And the sui generis.
Exactly. So it's only very specific village convenience store use as well.
Yeah. Jim.
I just wanted to gently ask if you really need a condition on parking. From memory, highways didn't
all I'm suggesting is I would like to see that parking, and sorry, maybe I wasn't clear, I would like to see that parking area laid out, demarcated and available for use prior to the use of the shop. Because otherwise I've got no control otherwise, and they might just not do it.
I think from what we're doing, we're going away from one of our policies. I think we need to be very careful about what we put in, and I think the parking thing is important. Otherwise, we could have all sorts of delivery vans, cars coming there. I think we need to control. I don't know what other members think.
Sorry, could I just come back in on that quickly, Chair? Just to say that in terms of the Highways Authority, whilst it wasn't, they have asked for it as a condition. They've asked if we were minded to approve it, and I'll give you the exact wording. It says, prior to the first use of the development hereby permitted, the proposed on-site car parking and turning area should be laid out, levelled, surfaced and drained in accordance with the approved plan and retained thereafter available for that specific use. So that would be the condition. Yeah.
So, Leah, we go for the opposite, which is to approve subject to
those conditions that were read out by Ben, and also that you're going against the local plan because the community benefits of the application outweigh your plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, sorry, I should say, so just outweigh the harms.
Right. So we got that, members? So the vote, I'm not going to repeat it again because Leah's just said it. All those in favour, raise your hand.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. Right, final step through. Thank you for coming, people. Good luck with your business. 3 appeals in, all delegated, so we don't know much about them, and we'll wait and see. And then the Hempnell one, appeal allowed. I think we said it was on conditions rather than on the application.
That's right, Chair. Yeah. So the application, just a very brief summary, was that for the increase in garden size at the back of some properties that we have at 2 to 10 Rowland Drive, we proposed some conditions to remove permitted development for certain things, outbuildings, fences and other things. The inspector determined that wasn't reasonable in terms of the tests of the conditions and decided to approve them. So those people now have permitted development rights to be able to do that. Part of our reason for putting those conditions on was because there's a significant amount you can do through residential permitted development. We thought it was the right thing to do to control it, but sometimes the inspector doesn't agree. It was a reasonable size, yeah, reasonable size.